Alright, now the next thing we've done is we've cleaned out the garage, we've moved the car in. You're going to want to jack up the car. I always jack it up right here on the front on the tow hooks. It's the strongest part on the car right here. You've got one of these on each side for reference. There's the driver headlight, the driver turn signal, and then right here you can see it right there, and then there's this, it's just like that on the other side, right below the headlight and the turn signal. You'll see it right there. Jack it up right there, and always use jack stands. Make sure you put the jack stand on this little stretch of metal right here that's thicker than the rest, because if you put it here it will bend it. But before you do that, to break the CV axles loose, go ahead and get your 32 socket, put on the CV axle on the center. I had to pop out the little Honda cap on this side, put it on there with it still on the ground, put it in gear, and have someone sit in the car and hold the brakes while you break them loose. Now that we've jacked up both sides, Jesse's taking this wheel off. We're going to get the drain pan and a ratchet. We're going to drain the old transmission fluid out of this gearbox. So I got the catch pan. And Jesse, let's see if they can see where you're at. Hold on a second. So he's right there, just to the right of the CV axle. Let's go to the front and let you get a look from there. And right there should be. And with any luck, and there it comes up.
And it's a 3/8.
Yeah, and it's a 3/8 ratchet. Hey Tim. What kind of spider?
Spider-Man.
Well, you should probably go get yourself checked. And there it comes draining out. And now we're gonna let this sit a couple minutes and drain all this gear oil out. All right, now. Oh, excuse me. Now the easiest way, because you have to remove the CV axles, so we're going to go ahead and do this while the fluid's finishing dripping out. As you can see, this side's already done. And I've got it to where the spindle and everything is free spinning on the upper ball joint, so you can swing it out of the way like that. CV axle is removed, the lower ball joint is removed, along with the outer tie rod. So I'll show you on the other side what to do. Remove your wheel. Now, this side, as you can see, I haven't done yet. The axle nut is off, but the axle is still through the hub. Best thing you can do is to start right here with the outer tie rod. Remove the cotter pin, which you can see is still in this one. Remove the cotter pin. These are 17s. Put your 17 ratchet on there. Take the bolt almost all the way out, not entirely. And then get you a very large hammer. And right here on this flat spot, right here, take your hammer, and you can see where someone's actually done it before, left a little indentation, but take your hammer and whack away a lot harder than that to pop the or to loosen it, and it will pop the tie rod up, and then you can remove the nut all the way. And if it doesn't pop out doing that, leave the castle nut on there a couple turns to where it's just the castle nut you're going to hit, and then go underneath it and pop the castle nut. Not very hard, but usually that'll do the trick. Now it's also a 17 for the lower ball joint, which is right here. And you can see this one's missing a castle nut. So all we're gonna have to do on this one is back the bolt out right here. And then usually you can give this a couple good whacks. Hit it on the side right here first also. Then tap it up a few times with the castle nut at the bottom. And usually that's enough to pop it up. Now once you do that, get you a smaller sized Phillips head screwdriver. I'm going to use this flathead as my example because I don't have a Phillips head on this side of the car. And I also use WD-40 on the other side. I sprayed it all around this edge. I placed the Phillips head, this is a flap, but the Phillips head will fit into that little groove, or you can use a chisel if you have a round end chisel. And then hit the back of the screwdriver with the hammer to push the axle in a little ways. Once you do that, you can get WD-40 and spray down in here in between the gap of the axle and the back of the spindle, and that'll soak down to the back side of the shaft on the axle. And then you can lift the entire spindle out of the lower ball joint cradle and let it rest in front of it, and then whack the CV axle again and it should be able to pop it right out. Now on the transmission back there, that's another story. I'm going to use a ball joint pickle fork, which if you have one of those, you can use one of those to do all this. And I have one, but I was too lazy to look for it, and it's too easy to do it this way. But I'm going to use the pickle fork to actually pull the axles from the transmission, because if you just grab the axle here and start pulling on it, you're going to pull all the little bearings inside the axle apart, and it is a very bad pain in the ass to get them back together. It's a lot easier if you just try to separate it from the transmission by prying backwards away from the transmission once you've gotten it out of this side, because if you just, like I said, pull on it here and try to yank it out of the transmission, you're gonna have a bad time because you're gonna ruin the axle. I mean, you can put it all back together, but it's not a very easy thing to do, and Paco agrees. Paco will tell you it is not an easy thing to do. So, but we've gotten this far, so I'm going to go ahead and break this side loose. Like I said, it's all 17s for the tie rod and the ball joint. Break those bolts almost all the way loose, hit the sides of them. It should come up. If it doesn't, you can hit the bottom of the nut, just the castle nut, not the bolt itself. And they should come out, and you can spin the spindle, or put the spindle out of your way, and then go to pull the axles. And like I said, somewhere I have a pickle fork, which is what I will use. Somewhere I have one of those pickle forks. Somewhere here. Anyway, I'm going to pull the axles now, and then we'll get ready to break the bell housing bolts loose on the transmission. Alright, Jesse. And the gold hatchback of awesomeness. Continuing on with the transmission removal. Now that we've got all this out of the way and we've pulled the CV axles from the transmission, the next thing you need to do is remove the shifter linkages, which I've already done so down there so graciously. Sorry. And in the process of doing so, they bolt up right there and then on that shaft. And you know which one goes where, because that one right there will only fit into this slot as a brace, and that one right there with the little yoke joint on it goes on the shaft right there, and the bolt goes through it. Now it's supposed to have what I refer to as a bitch pin, because it is a bitch to remove and replace. However, someone has already gone through the process of removing this before at one point in time, probably years ago. So they have put a bolt in it, which is perfectly fine. It will work. And there are the two bolts that came out, and there's the nut for the shifter linkage. So, but they just go in right here. You remove those, and now nothing's holding the transmission in except for the bell housing bolts and mounts. So when it comes to removing mounts, Jesse's back here now, removing the lower mounts.
I'm removing the starter.
Or he's removing the starter. This mount right here has been removed, and most of them are 17mm bolts.
And 14 for right there.
And 14 for the bottom bracket on the transmission. And we also have a front mount right here. And the front mount will have to come off next. And if you need to know where that is, look at your header, the upper radiator hose, and go right between them and look straight down. You'll see where the gap is filled.
Motor's going to have to be lowered down to get it startable.
Okay, so we're gonna lower it down a little bit in a minute and remove the starter bolts so that we can get it all out. Alright, so now the transmission has been removed from the car with the mounts off, and once you've got the mounts off, you're able to remove the bolts, and now you can see where the bolts are. You've got one there, another one right there, then over here you've got one, and another one, and another one. So there's 3 on each side. And then the 2 guide pins, you have to carefully work your way around those, and then pull it directly back, and then it'll drop down. And now the transmission is out. And like I said, once you get it out, there's your pressure plate and your clutches behind there. You have to remove the little 10mm star head bolts, and then here's the transmission out here. Being a 4-speed car, very small transmission. I mean, there's not much to it. You can pick it up with one hand. But the principle is the same between 4 speeds and 5 speeds. And the only difference really between this and an automatic is you have to remove torque converter bolts and the shifter linkage for an automatic. And I've already just removed the throttle bearing already, so we're going to go get the new throttle bearing in a minute once this dries off good. And yeah, and then we'll reinstall it. And now you have to remove the flywheel bolts, which are these bolts right here. Let me see if I can get you closer. Right there they are. And as you can see, they're kind of star-headed, and they're 10mm, and they go all the way around. So you need, reposition my flashlight, a 10mm with the star grooves on the inside to remove these safely. And let's see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It looks like there's 6 of them. So let's go ahead and get all those out. Alright, so it's already dark outside because I had to go borrow an impact to get those bolts off the flywheel because they were on there good. Those are the Star Torx head star bolt, 10 point, whatever, 12 point, whatever they are. These, I can never think what you call them. Those. So I got the impact, got those off. One of them fought me really good, but I got it off. And the old bearing is right here, and you can see the scoring on it right there. And this thing is toast. Because Tim was like, oh, it's in good shape, but they're not supposed to free spin that, oh, I dropped it, that easy. Plus, if you hold it up to your ear while you spin it, you can hear noise. Oh, I didn't know, you didn't say nothing, so. And I think these bearings are reversible. They have the same cuts on each side, so they can go in either way. And there's no indication of which way it does go in, so. Now the best way to do it, you're going to want to clean this surface really well. You can see all the nasty old gunky mess in there. So we're going to get a rag and wipe that down good, and then seat the new bushing in there. And like I said, the best way to do this is to find a socket. Huh? You said bushing bearing, yeah. Best way to do it is to find a socket that will overlap the new bearing kind of like that, and then you can just hammer it right down into place. So let's clean it up, put this in, and reinstall the flywheel.
We are about to put a clutch in Sylvester.
Alright, so intro to
And I'm about to call my manager, so.
Oh well, that kind of killed my intro. Anyway, Sylvester, everybody. He's gonna get a new clutch today. A brand new kick-ass clutch. Now, in order to replace your clutch, there's a couple things I'm going to do particularly. You don't have to do them, but I'm going to do them because I care about this car. And this has the rare, or not necessarily rare, but the more harder to find 4-speed manual transmission. Paco, tell them about that 4-speed. Yeah, 4-speed. So, one thing that it's good to do regularly in the older straight drives is go to Honda and give them all your money that you have. All your money. All of it. Just give them all your money. No. And the reason for that, I'm going to change the fluid in this manual transmission when I replace the clutch. And this is genuine Honda fluid. And as you can see, this is the manual transmission fluid specifically formulated for these older style manual transmissions. And this, let's see, right here, it's premium quality formula that meets Honda quality standards, superior shift quality at all ambient temperatures, excellent thermal, oxidative, and shear stability for a long life. So after reading online what a lot of people recommended, and I know that you can put motor oil in them. If you haven't ever heard that, yes, you can put like a 1030 weight lubricant in there. I didn't want to go that route. I'm trying to build Sylvester back as factory as we can get it and as clean as we can get him. The best way to do it is genuine Honda parts. So starting with fluids. So you're going to need 3 quarts of this. It's going to take almost all 3 quarts. And I'm going to put them back in the bag because I want to keep my awesome Honda bag. I don't know why, but I'm going to. And then, last but not least, you're going to need a clutch kit. And it's better to buy the entire clutch kit than just replacing a clutch, because that's not always going to fix your problem. For example, this car has a winding throwout bearing. And when you get a clutch kit, this one's made by Sash. And this is a staged clutch with a, it has a high temp pressure plate, which means you can do awesome burnouts. Right here, they give you a Sash brand lubricant to put on the splines of the transmission before you line it back up. They also give you the, wow, my brain just, the pilot shaft bearing. The little one that goes inside the flywheel. I'm not sure if we're going to replace that yet. Yeah, we're going to replace that. Apparently, says Jesse. But first we're going to take a selfie. And then here's our brand new clutch. As you can see, it's all pretty and not scarred and ruined. And there's our new pressure plate, all pretty and clean. And then in that box is your throttle bearing. And the clutch isn't slipping terrible in this car. You can feel it when you smash Awesome VTEC of Awesomeness and all the ponies fart out their magic shit. But as far as the rest of it goes, yeah. But mainly it's just the throttle bearing has such a chatter. I'm afraid it's gonna collapse and ruin the gears in the transmission. So that's the biggest reason we're gonna be doing this. Yeah, like his 4-speed did, and I don't want that to happen.
I'm jammed in 3rd gear.
Yeah, and see, this one's weird shifting in 3rd, but the thing I'm doing this for is it already shifts weird into 3rd. It's got a little roar, and I want to keep the 4-speed. You don't see many 4-speeds left, so I'd rather keep it in good shape, and this is a good maintenance procedure to do so, to keep it in good shape. And as far as he's making a broom. Now, as far as replacing or removing the transmission, some people would actually remove the engine with it. We're not going to do that. That's a bunch of work you don't need to do. Jesse, if you turn the broom around the other way and sweep that way, it'll lay on itself instead of trying to pull the tape away. You get it?
See.
You know what I'm saying though?
Yeah, but.
Yeah. He's unhappy now. Anyway. Things you're going to need is you're going to need a 32mm socket to remove the CV axles, and preferably a screwdriver that's not about to get swept away. So the 32mm socket, you're going to need a cheater pipe, a breaker bar, a regular 3/8 drive ratchet, and at least one set, preferably deep welds. Yes, like those over there, of deep weld sockets between 8 to 19mm. I've got 3 extensions, 2 short ones, 1 6-inch extension, and then we have a full set of wrenches from, I think, 8 to 19 also. And then a couple miscellaneous screwdrivers, flathead and Phillips for little wiring looms and stuff like that. You're going to want, well, you have to remove the reverse sensor, and you have to unhook the battery and remove the battery. I also like to unplug those 2 sensors that are on the head so you don't bust them when you pull the transmission. But you know, that's just me. So. And then 2 jack stands to support the car so that you can have your jack free to rest the transmission on when you go to separate it. And with that being said, we're going to clean up our garage now that you know most of the things you're going to need, like I said, and quality parts. Good tools, and then Jesse. So if you need Jesse, let me know. I'll drop a link down here. You can rent him for the day. It's not cheap, and I'm not going to promise he's going to do work. He's probably going to sit in your garage, talk about liquor, talk about how good his car is, and smoke cigarettes. But you know, it's Jesse, so you get to be able to be like, I had Jesse in my garage. So Jesse, I'll probably let him go for, I don't know, $125 a day, and cash up front, of course, no refunds, and you get what you see here, and it's not going to get any more prettier than that. And he might even show up on a moped. So anyway, we're going to clean out the garage, and Paco's going to chill like a villain, and then we're going to bring Sylvester in so that we can get him up in the air and start moving the transmission. So we'll see you in a couple minutes.